Hey guys, welcome to the Sophisticated Scoundrel. A couple weeks ago, I did a video on cigars as a way to improve or develop your personality, and I stand by that. And a lot of you guys seem to enjoy that video, so I thought I'd do another one about that because, you know, for those of you who follow me, you guys know that I'm all about developing your personality and your charm, your wit. To me, these things are absolutely essential in order to be an interesting man, a fully developed man, a man that men want to be and girls want to bang. So we're gonna do another episode today on cigars, and the first thing I want to say about cigars is that it really, if you get into cigars, I'm not saying like you need to smoke every day, but the cool thing about the world of cigars is that you are most likely to meet other men. It's still a man's world, and it's funny enough, I do see on a lot of the Instagrams of cigar companies, they're trying to bring women into the mix. You know, it is what it is. I think it's a little cheesy. I mean, if girls I used to date a girl, one of my ex-girlfriends, she'd like to smoke a cigar every now and then. That's fine, it's cool. But I do think there still needs to be certain things that are for men, and that's, you know, it is what it is. Men need to have their place too. So, while you can, cigars are still a big place for men to go into and enjoy. As a matter of fact, I just went to a really cool cigar event a couple of weeks ago, where the cigar shop, cigar lounge, I guess, invited a bunch of people. You had cigars, and then you had dinner, and then you had one of the representatives from Avo, one of the cigar companies that's a pretty well-known cigar company, really good cigars, came and gave us a talk about all of their different cigars. So it was really, really cool, really interesting. But what I want to share with you about this experience was that it was just a room full of other men who were really cool. And this is obviously why I want to share this with you guys, because, you know, I want you guys to learn how to socialize, be comfortable with meeting people, and obviously find opportunities where you can meet other guys. And cigars is a great way to do it. But at this event, I met a bunch of other guys who were very similar to the way that I think. You know, a lot of the guys in the cigar world are more conservative for whatever reason. I think it's because, you know, cigars is considered more of a luxury item, you know, just like fine wines. Things that are luxury in general in life, you're gonna find guys who are more conservative because they understand working hard, making money, and wanting to improve themselves in order to get to a point where they can enjoy some of these things in life. So it's a great way to naturally meet other people who might think the same way that you do. Anyway, the cool thing though about cigars is, again, there's so many cigar shops all over the world, so whatever country or whatever city that you live in, if you're in the United States, these are places that are easily accessible for you just to walk down, go there, and start a conversation about cigars, especially if you're new to it. I know a lot of you guys are actually really well versed in cigars, more so than I am. I'm gonna admit I'm sort of a newcomer. I've probably been doing this for about a year. So I'm still relatively new, so I'm not gonna claim that I'm an expert on this stuff, but I did want to run through this again and share with you a couple of, like, you know, the common cigars, and then walk through how you smoke them and fun stuff like that, because it's kind of a cool, fun little topic, and I wanted to do something outside of the normal conversations that we have here. But anyway, like, I live in Los Angeles, and there are so many different cigar shops and that I've been to, cigar lounges, I should say, because a lot of the places you actually stay there and you can smoke. and the owners of these places are just cool guys. You know, they've been in the business for a long time. They're very cool guys. And if you're a younger guy, or I mean, you could be any guy for that matter, as long as you show interest and you ask good questions, they love sharing with you what they know about it. And that's one of the things I really like to do, especially during this year, as I've learned about cigars and kind of, you know, because I still am a novice. And so when I go somewhere new, I like to chat and see what's going on. What do they recommend? What do they like to smoke? You know, what are the flavors like? And they just love talking about it, and they're really nice guys. And they're happy to share their knowledge with you. So it's a great way to make an acquaintance. It's a great way for you to build a little social street cred. So let's say you have another guy friend that doesn't smoke, and you say, hey, you know what? Why don't you and I go this weekend and smoke a cigar? When you take them to a place that maybe you've been to already, you can then introduce him to the owner. You can have a little conversation, and it just shows that you're a guy about town, and there's something cool about that. And like I said, I'm all about learning how to have that social acuity, be able to kind of navigate different situations that you find yourself in. And so cigars is a great way to do that, and it's a great way to just you know, flex a little bit of knowledge, a little expertise, and then also just enjoy yourself. You know, because I think a lot of guys, you know, obviously getting a drink is great, but having a cigar is a different form of relaxation and enjoyment that you can also indulge in as a man. So that's kind of why I started doing it. I wanted to do it because it looked interesting. I was curious about it because, again, a lot of men that I knew and I was talking to, they did it from time to time. And I'm like, that sounds kind of interesting. What is this all about? I never wanted to smoke cigarettes necessarily because I thought that seemed to be a lot more harmful, you know, if you're concerned about health. But with a cigar, it's something that you can do once a month. You can do it once a week if you'd like. You can do it every day if you'd like. But I don't think it's as addictive as cigarettes. That's very addicting, whereas cigars, it still can be. I'm not going to say it's not, but at least for me, I've never really felt that compulsion to smoke. I do it when I feel like it, and there isn't this sort of internal drive. It's a way for me to chill out maybe once a week, and it's a great way to socialize. So that being said, I wanted to do a second episode that talks about cigars, and so hopefully you guys can be inspired to go out wherever it is that you live, find your closest cigar shop, and try one. It's a great way to meet people. So I picked out 3 cigars. These are sort of the most common ones. So these are, as you can see, there are 3 different lengths, and I'll get close-ups and stuff later when I do some demonstrations, some B-roll to show you guys how this works, how to actually do everything. But so these are 3 different cigars here, and I'm going to start with, this is the Churchill cigar, and I have a little cheat sheet here. So Churchill cigars are these longer ones that you see, and they're obviously named after Winston Churchill because he smokes these a lot. They're 7 inches long, and they have a 50 ring gauge, which is how wide this is. And these last about an hour, okay? This one right here, this is a Toro, and a Toro is 6 inches and has a 50 ring gauge. So it's the same ring gauge as the Churchill, but the same thickness. And like I said, they last for about 45 minutes, okay? And then this one here I wanted to introduce because this is kind of fun. This is a Robusto. It's 5 inches long, and they last about 30 minutes. Now, this could also be considered a figurado because of the shape of this end of it. Has sort of a point. That's kind of what's known as that. But anyway, you have all sorts of different wrappers. These darker ones, lighter ones. And what that means is, well, essentially you have different levels of smoking. This is like kind of like a coffee. You get like a light roast, medium roast, dark roast. So some of the cigars are going to have a stronger kick, whereas some of them are going to have a lighter kick. So, and then there's the medium ones. Now I asked the guy this last weekend. I was in Burbank at a pretty nice little shop, and I asked him, does the wrapper, the color, indicate how strong it is? He told me no. But I've talked to other people who said, yes, that's how you determine that. Like a darker one's going to be a more fuller bodied. So this is something that honestly, I don't know yet. I don't know quite the answer to that. If any of you guys know, please let me know. But there are more fuller bodied versus lighter bodied. So you'll have to experiment with what you like the most. I prefer the more medium, more mild right now. It's sort of my jam, something light to enjoy after a long day. Okay, so let's get into how you prepare this thing, okay? So I'm actually gonna do a little demonstration, and like I said, I'll show some close-ups later. But the first thing that you're gonna need is one of these cutter devices, okay? I'm sure you guys have seen these, but it's just simply like a guillotine that you put your cigar in, and then you clip off what's called the cap of the cigar. And that's the top part here that just prevents it from losing the tobacco leaves that are inside. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. This cigar, it's called Padron. This is a pretty liked brand, and this is the one, when I asked the guy, hey, could you recommend me a cigar at this place in Burbank the other day, this is what he recommended to me. Padron, I think it's about between $20 and $30 for this one. I can't remember. It's the Padron Damaso. So anyway, so the top of this thing does have a little bit of a cap, so you just want to cut that off. So what you do, so, you know, a lot of the times people who are new to it, they just, you know, slide this in and slice it like too far in, and the problem that happens when you slice it too far in is that if you cut too much off, then the little pieces of tobacco start to come out. So when you're smoking it, they'll come out in your mouth, and it's not a fun experience. So you really just want to cut a little bit, and you can actually see a line where that cap is. So you're just gonna put a little bit, it's like 2 millimeters, and then boom, cut it off just like that. And there's some debris that comes out, but that's pretty much it. And that should give you a really nice, big enough cut to get a nice smooth draw. And there are other different ways you can do this, okay? You can punch it. So I have this lighter here that has a special piece on it that punches a hole at the end of the cigar. That's another way you can do it. And then you can also do what's called a V cut. So instead of cutting it in a straight line, it cuts it in the shape of a V. Now, again, I asked this guy who's been smoking cigars for 40 years, what do you recommend? He said just do the regular straight cut. It's just, the other ways, he says it's kind of a gimmick. This is the most classic, best way to smoke it. So I'm gonna trust what he says. Okay, so let's move on to how do you actually light this thing. So I'm not gonna actually light this inside because, so I have a couple different lighters, okay? Now this is a vintage Dunhill lighter, and it's really interesting because it's a one, you slide this little roller and it lights automatically. So check this out. It's really slick. This is from the 40s, and I bought this at an antique shop. They only made one of these. They discontinued it because it would actually, when people put it in their pocket, they'd actually accidentally hit this, and I guess some people lit their pants on fire. So that's not a good thing. So that's how they ended up stopping that. But the point I'm trying to make here is this uses actually fluid, and he said don't light a cigar with this type of a lighter because either a table lighter, which uses, you know, actual like lighter fluid, because that smell can kind of influence the flavor of the tobacco. So he said his favorite thing to use is just wooden matches. So these are sort of these long matches. You light this thing, and then what you do with that flame is you sort of warm up the end to kind of prime the end of it to get it evenly lit, because this is pretty big, you know, and so you want to get everything evenly lit, right? But the point of using wooden matches or these butane lighters like this is that it's not going to influence the flavor like a typical lighter is. I mean, obviously if you're in a pinch, go ahead and use it, but if you have the option, use a wooden match. It's going to make the flavor, it's not going to influence the flavor. So once you've kind of warmed up that end of it, then you're going to actually take it and hold it, and you're going to rotate this as you're inhaling. You're going to rotate the cigar so everything is evenly lit, and by that time you should be lit and ready to enjoy your smoke. One little interesting little thing that I actually didn't know, he just told me, is that when you're not smoking it, you don't want to hold it even like this. He said you want to hold it up like this. And I asked him, well, why? And he said because if you hold it like this, the heat rises and it'll burn unevenly. Okay, so the heat rises and this top part will probably burn faster than the bottom part, and then you'll have a crooked burn. So when you're holding it, when you're not puffing on it, and when you're holding it, you want to hold it up like this, he said, so it's all even the way it burns up and it doesn't affect one side more than the other. So I thought that was a cool little tip he gave. So that is essentially how you smoke a cigar. So it's not complicated, but I'll be honest with you, when I first started, I had no idea how to do it. And another little thing that I didn't know when I first started was the level at which you have to like actually inhale. Because I had always heard that you don't inhale this like a cigarette. So I figured I'm just doing really light little like puffs, but you do actually need to take a decent drag when you're doing it, you know, like a, okay, now you don't need to inhale into your lungs, but you do need to do a decent enough drag, because that drag will keep this thing lit. If you don't, if you're just kind of puffing away very slightly, it won't stay lit. And that was the problem I had when I first started smoking these things, was that it would always go out. So make sure you're giving it a decent enough puff when you're smoking it. Now, the other thing too that I would like to let you guys know of, so a lot of times cigars are stored in a room called a humidor, and the reason why they put them in there is because if they get too dry, it doesn't burn well, and if it gets too damp, it makes it very difficult to smoke as well. I've had that problem a lot where they're so damp, it's impossible for me to smoke it. Like and you'll know, because when you're trying to smoke it, it's hard to inhale, to the draw, it's called, the smoothness of which you can smoke it. It becomes very difficult. So if it's hard to inhale, it's probably because it's too humid and too moist, and the leaves are too damp, and the smoke can't easily travel through it. So something to keep in mind. So anyway, guys, that is the video for today. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you do go out and actually try to smoke a cigar. And most importantly, I hope you go out and meet people that you can interact with and practice just chit-chatting, practicing just getting to know people, practicing a little charm, a little wit, have a little fun with it. And you know, it'll give you something that you can practice with and gain that confidence to just go out and talk to anybody after that point. So, all right, guys, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. And if you are interested in getting coaching with me one-on-one, I'm gonna leave the links down below. You can click below to sign up for a consultation session with me. And I'd love to work with you and help you out. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we will see you in the next one.